the CEO of the producer of these Benev exosomes. And we have Susie Samaricone, who's the head of marketing. And Susie, you have literally, you've poured your life into this company for the last at least 20 years. So we appreciate all that you do. She's always behind the scenes, but you can see for tonight, she got fancy hair, pretty sweater on.
Mhm.
Good. So I'm thanking every single person that's joining us. I know that we have about a little over 800 people that have registered, so they'll be trickling in. But I don't want to waste anybody's time because we have an hour and we really want to just spill the tea. And this is a no holds barred. Everybody who knows Shino, everybody knows who's Jan, who knows me. We're no bullshit here. This is just truth. So let's go get started. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, let's start showing the slides if you don't mind, Jeremiah. You can help me. Perfect. So you can see these are the experts, and we had to do an AI image of Sheena. We put a shirt on him, just so you know there. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. Good. So a little bit about me. I trained in dermatology, and then I did a Mohs fellowship, and then a laser fellowship. Nothing that exciting. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to slide through here. Okay, here's the disclaimer because this is important. These are our opinions that we're sharing because this is, if we have a one-on-one conversation with anybody who's on this webinar, we'd be saying the same things. That's why this is a no holds barred, the truth information that's coming through. Let's go to the next slide, please. Good. What's going on out there? It's a confusing industry. There's so much marketing that's out there. We don't really know what's the truth. And I love when people say such and such is off label to be injected. Well, there's no label. So why should you be injecting anything? So everything we're talking about is topical, despite what some of the manufacturers are hinting towards. And we're going to talk about everything from PRP, PDGF, PRFM, growth factors, exosomes, PN, and PDRN. So a lot of P's and N's and all these different types of things that we're going to go through. Let's go forward one slide. Shino, this is one of my good friends, and we've celebrated many birthdays together, my brother. So it's always an honor to have you. Thank you for joining us. He said this is the one time of year that Fort Lauderdale and Miami, the weather's perfect. Shino, say hi to everybody if you don't mind.
Hi, everybody. So blessed to be here. I can't wait to set the record straight and learn from my colleagues. And maybe together, the intention is to live elated and having a little bit more understanding about orthomolecular science.
I love it. And that's my favorite word. So I know, Sheena, you're going to talk about orthomolecular science in just a second. Next, I get to introduce my lovely friend. She's one of my favorite people, Jen Levine. She's in New York. I've been asking her for the last 7 years if she'll give me a facelift, but I'm hoping with your help on this webinar that you'll convince her to let me have that facelift.
I
Jen,
don't
you
think
want to say hi to
anyone's going to
everybody?
belive that you would need a facelift.
No, I'm telling you, it's needed.
That
Look at all the
is,
saggy skin, despite exercise.
we have some products for you.
Jen, you want to say hi to everybody if you don't mind?
Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Levine, and I am a double board certified facial plastic surgeon. I practice on the Upper East Side of New York City, and I'm just so excited to be here with all these incredibly brilliant colleagues, and I'm just excited to share.
Sheena, she's talking about you just in case you want to know. Let's go to the
Thank
next
you.
slide if you don't mind. Good. And then Byung Cho, she's talking about Byung too. So Dr. Cho is actually the CEO. He's a PhD in molecular biology in one of the most difficult universities to get into. And if you want to talk about a humanitarian, he's one of these people where he's able to balance two things. He can be an incredible businessman, and he has because he's grown this exosome industry into something that's a mega power. But he also has the humanity to make sure that ExcoBio really creates better values for the healthy lifestyle of everybody with this phrase, continuous research and development. So he has poured over $80 million in the last few years just to make sure that we have good clinical science. Byung, do you mind saying hi to everybody?
Hello, everyone. I'm Byung Cho. It's my honor to join this great event with all of you guys. Uh, I, I have I have nothing to say, but I'm so happy to host to be one of the speakers for this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Byung, for joining us. So he's in Bangkok. It's the middle of the evening for him. What I want to share is just an intro to what the goal is. So if you have questions, there's actually a Benev University that has all the papers, all the publications. Right now, there's 45 plus publications. Why do I say plus? Because every time I turn around, every couple of weeks, there's another publication. These are in peer-reviewed journals. They're not white papers. They're not nonsense. They're not just abstracts. But later on, we're going to share the passcode for once you click on that QR code. Can we go to the next slide, Susie? Excellent. So everything that we're going to be talking about is truly a partnership. It's a partnership with everybody who's attending here, and you can see the beauty of the partnership between XGO the manufacturer of the exosomes, and Benev. Benev is the distributor. They're the marketing powerhouse, and they're making sure that the world understands the power of exosomes. And this has truly become now a household word, exosome. Let's go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So the partnership is here between Ethan Mint. If anybody's on the webinar who knows Ethan, today is his birthday. He's turning 21 again because all the exosomes. So I want to say a blessed happy birthday, Ethan. We're looking forward to celebrating you in person. And I'm glad that you're going to share your evening with us and with Byung here. Next slide, please. Good. So here's an overall agenda. This is what we're going to be covering tonight. And I don't want to waste too much time with marketing nonsense. Let's get into spilling the tea, but we're going to cover the understanding of the technologies, what's old, what's new. And now sometimes there's things that are being recycled. What's old is becoming new. And we'll share some of that as well. And really understanding when you look at something that's a benchmark in the exosome space or in the regenerative space, how do you pick and choose? And we're going to be talking to brilliant minds, including Jen and Shino, to really understand what's their process of thinking and how they add different aspects into their practice. Let's go to the next slide. I do want to emphasize there's going to be a live Q&A. So if you guys don't mind, on your bottom right of your screen, somewhere around there, it should show chat. And in that chat box, if you don't mind, please type in your questions because we want to make sure that your questions are being answered. I'm going to kind of guide the conversation here. Let's start with PRP. You're using PRP, and one of the questions that I have is really understanding, what's the consideration? It's long been considered the gold standard. How much are you using PRP? What are you saving PRP for?
Ladies first.
Oh, so it's so interesting because I used to use a lot of PRP, and now we hired some new people in the office, so we've been doing inventory, and I have all of these expired boxes of this product that I don't really use it anymore. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. So I started using PRP and PRF probably 12, 13 years ago. And, it was a very interesting product. And, there's people that do request it in the office, but really, I don't think it's the best option currently out there. And it does require the blood to be drawn. And then it really depends on the patient's the patients themselves and how good those growth factors really are. So I feel like it's inconsistent and it doesn't always do what the patient wants it to do. So it seems like a great idea in theory, but in practice, I found it to be underwhelming.
How about you, Dr.
Yeah, the same thing. And this is just a perfect example of the evolution of medicine and aesthetics now. Like, same thing like what happened with certain lasers or injectable fillers, like what was used in 1995 is going to be something better and new and improved. So I did a lot of PRP, and then we still do PRF, Dove, because I use the EC gel in certain patients that they have autoimmune disorders, so I feel like it may be the safer option to use an EC gel as a biogel to increase to help lines and folds and wrinkles and teardrops. But yeah, when PRF came, it's superior, right? It's the slow release of all the bioactive ingredients that we wish to get, all these growth factors that we wish to get from the blood. But like Jen said, with these type of factors, there's a lot of variability. It depends day to day of the patient, the health of the patient. If the patient is dehydrated, some patients would come and my nurses couldn't get the blood because the multiple punctures, and we have to turn them back and tell them to come back, and it became a little bit of a hassle. So there's other options of things that will do basically what we're trying to achieve without all of this hassle. But I still use PRF for certain things as a biogel.
And I'm glad that you brought up the biogel. So we're about to embark on a study for a PRF gel, just like Athena's talking about. And so this company, and we don't need to name any name brands, but we're about to embark on this. What we saw with the pilot study was so interesting because when you use this mechanism to create a gel, almost like an HA that you'd inject, and it actually looks more like nanofat. When you're putting it in place, we're seeing a bioregenerative mechanism. So it's the skin texture improves on patients who their skin texture hasn't been great. So it's really interesting to see what we can do with that gel and how we combine it with some of the technologies that we're doing now. But I have to echo what Dr. Levine said. For me, the problem was this. We had 89% success rate when we're using PRP in the past for, let's say, for scalp and things like that. My curiosity was why was there 11% that didn't respond or didn't have a great result? So I worked with a immunobiologist, and what we did, we were doing blood smears. We actually went to the hematology lab and started doing blood smear, and we worked backwards. So what happens if you took an NSAID the day of? Nothing. What happens if you took an NSAID the day before? You can see there was platelet disruption, and we traced it backwards. So if somebody had taken any type of an NSAID, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, up to 3 weeks before the procedure, drawing the blood, spinning it down, concentrating the platelets, we can see there's platelet dysfunction. The second thing that we saw is it was not age related. So oftentimes people say, okay, well, if you're an 80-year-old man or woman, are your platelets as healthy as somebody who's 17? And we didn't see a change in that because those are being distributed and regenerated, right, from your bone marrow. So, but you don't necessarily have as many platelets. So that was one inconsistency. The second one was alcohol use. And we traced it back actually to 72 hours. Those 3 days before, if you had some type of alcohol, you can see there was some platelet dysfunction. So, oh, you can hear my audio. How about now? Can you hear me any better?
It's a little muffled, Sunil. I know whether my PRP never worked.
Well, yeah, it's just the alcohol, darn it. Okay, I'm gonna fix my microphone. I apologize, and thank you for letting me know. Let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. Okay, good. So in here, what we want to talk about is really understanding growth factors and PDGF. So one of the hot topics right now is PDGF and what's going on inside there. Growth factors, I had the pleasure of working with Rich Fitzpatrick back in the day when he was developing TNS. And what was TNS? Total nutrient system. We knew there were growth factors inside there. The question was, there's such a big molecule, how does it get inside the skin, right? And so what are you guys seeing with growth factors and PDGF?
I mean, I use it. I'm a big proponent. I've been seeing wonderful things. I use it to amplify things like biocollagen stimulators, getting incredible results. I was about to publish, but I retracted my paper with all this controversy until I get the IND IRB.
Yeah.
Although I'm okay in Florida, is one of the few states that we can do things that most states cannot do. But we need to understand what they are, what to do. So the analogy for me of growth factor is a switch, and it's PDGF is a very potent switch. So you get this switch with PDGF, which is the conductor of an orchestra that will tell the players in the orchestra to play in a certain way. So when do we use PDGA, or when will it be indicated? For wound healing, scar reduction, and rapid tissue repair. So if you need rapid tissue repair, if there's a wound, and that's why they use it in oral, right? You need to create tissue rapidly. then you use this switch because it's targeted. It's targeted. It's one molecule that is targeted, has this function. When you compare it with exosome, it's different, right? So for me, PDGF is such an important molecule. Is 3,000 more concentrate than what you find in blood. But you have to handle with care because if you do not know what to do, the proper dilution, injecting superficial, you get into trouble. And you can't, it's such a potent molecule that if you don't know how to handle and you cannot stop the switch, the reaction will continue and getting adverse reactions.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dr. Levine, are you using
Yes. So
okay.
we do use this product in our practice, and I have to the PDGF. In my practice, we are only using it topically. So we get calls all the time about people who want it injected. And if you have the product, it clearly says on the product, for topical use only. So I think a lot of the controversy is when we have products that are intended to be used topically and we decide to inject them. So this idea to inject it is not an off-label use because it doesn't have a label for
There's no
injection.
label.
There's no label for it. So I think that we have to be very careful and we have to follow the rules of the FDA, and we do not inject topical products in the skin, much less, under the eye in an area that's, very unforgiving. And I think that this is a very promising product. I think that the people in the company are committed to science and research, and I think that we'll have data coming out that supports, use for injection, or there could be other products that are coming out. And I think that this is certainly going to be something that we're going to see continued interest in, and that there will be a lot more science coming out about it.
And then the caveat of this product, just to make some clarification, is that if you do not mix the PDGF that is on the syringe with the provided HA that is on the kit, that was approved, FDA approved as a kit that needs to be used as it was intended to use, which is mixing it with the gel. However, if you are to mix with normal saline, that product that is on the syringe without mixing is identical to the intellectual property of Sam Lynch, which is the exact same product that is injected intraoral, intraarticular. The problem is that the company went ahead like that. So for me, the solution is that the company should invest to create a different formulation, which is going to be just put that syringe that is on that into a different industrial box and set for injectable. And then because we have seen, loosely, colleagues of mine, myself, that the product does promise what it delivers, and it does it in a short period of time. So it is needed on our space, but we need to be patient, and that could be 5, 10 more years. I don't know.
And I agree with you. I agree with both of you guys. So I think the concept of PDGF is excellent. That's a great concept. But what I keep telling Sam, and I just saw him at the ASDS this past Thursday, and his team, is this: you have to have science, and you can't be winking at your practitioners and say, this is not for injectable, wink, wink, because this is a disaster waiting to happen. And Shino and Jen, I don't know if you guys have seen this in your location. What we've seen with some of the there's no label, again, just injecting as rogue underneath the eyes, we've seen some permanent or semi-permanent staining, meaning that we see iron deposits that are left over after, whether it's from the PDGF or from a massive bruise, where we're trying now to use different lasers and RF microneedling to try to remove some of that staining that's there, that's pigment. So it's not
You can
hyperpigmentation,
use
it's actually staining.
you can use ECPR on that area,
Okay.
let you know, because I've been dealing with a lot of these other reactions with people around, and I'll be able to basically solve most of them.
Excellent. And I know that I'm going to move forward to the next slide as we're going to answer one of the questions. So Sophia was asking, can a numbing cream or lidocaine be used while using PDGF? Will its integrity be preserved? So I don't know the answer to that question. How about you, Ashina? Have you seen that question ever be asked? Does the lidocaine that if we're putting, I presume, a topical lidocaine or numbing medicine, can that be used, or will it mess up the integrity of the PDGF?
We used it, and I haven't seen. I mean, we removed the topical
Mhm.
Right.
lidocaine as much as we can, but I think that we have great results even after removing. So I don't see a change in the integrity of the results. It's
Yeah.
such
I
a
think,
potent
yeah.
switch. Go ahead, Jen.
No,
And the other thing that I know we were on the slide before just a second ago was growth factors. So growth factors are great. The question is, how do they get inside the system? And
right.
number two, if you have all this other cellular debris along with the growth factors, how efficient is it? So I'm looking at a couple of things when I look at anything that I'm going to introduce to my practice. Number one, is it safe? Number two, is it efficacious? Is it the most efficient product to do a bioregenerative mechanism? In this case, is what we're talking about. Number three, if it's safe, if it's efficacious, how easy is it to use? So let's say PRP and exosomes or PRP and PDGF, they work exactly the same. They have the same similar mechanism or clinical effect. And then I'm looking at which one is easier to use in my clinic. So just like Dr. Aguilera was talking about, it's hard to draw blood on everybody. And are we worried? For me, I'm worried about one of my team members sticking themselves or myself sticking myself during that blood draw. So if it's easier to grab something off the shelf, I tend to grab my exosomes first. Let's talk about polydeoxyribonucleotides, and there's something else that goes with PDRN. Jen, do you want to take this, what your discussion is? I know you use a lot of PDRN as well.
Right. So I think that it's important to understand that there's two products. There's the PDRN and there's also PN, which are just the polynucleotides. So the PDRN eventually has to be converted to the PN. And in my practice, I would say that the PN is a lot more effective than the PDRN. And for me, initially I was like, okay, where is DNA made, right? DNA is made in the cell or likely in the nucleus, right? So obviously there's some mitochondrial DNA, but in order for these products to work, we have to assume that they're able to get not only through the cell, but through the cell and then into the nucleus. So it's really asking a lot, for very large molecules to even be able to do that. So I like to use these products usually in conjunction with other things. So it's very rare that I will only use one of these products by themselves. I like to use them in combination with other things, but that's just in my practice. I've found that I like the PN more than the PDRN, and I feel like I need to combine it with something else in order for me to get more of an effect.
I love it.
Yeah, and
How about
I
you, Sheila?
think the reason you are not so because I use sodium DNA, and the reason you see this you see it as more efficacious than PRA because they are different. The sodium DNA that I use, which is PN, it really helps the structure, the deep structure of the skin, right? And when you look at what PDRN does, is to enhance circulation, speed healing, and reduce inflammation. So when you use sodium DNA or PNs, what you're gonna see is a firm, more elastic skin, which is what we're all looking in aesthetics. When you use PDRN, you're going to, if you doing after any procedure that causes inflammation, rapid reduce inflammation, but you get more of a skin glow, but the texture of the skin is not going to be what you see with the PNs. And that's why we see PNs results better because we're looking for a better skin.
And I agree with you 100%. So we finished a 1-year prospective study on polynucleotides, not PDRN. So polynucleotides, if you look inside on electron microscopy, and it looks like little like PVC piping. And
Yeah.
what we know is there's going to be a mechanical effect to the fibroblast. So if you create this matrix that's inside there, the fibroblast can grab onto it. It stretches out, and that turns on the fibroblastic mechanism to produce collagen and elastin, right? That's our ultimate goal. Collagen is going to be the structure. It's like the bridge that's underneath the skin. And then elastin is going to give us that rubbery feel so we can snap back easily. So when I was in Korea literally for 30 hours and I'm speaking in front of 750 people, all are bioregenerative experts, And there were actually 36 countries that were being represented. And the question that I was asked on the panel from the moderator was, hey, I know that you use the BNF exosomes. Where do you choose to pair your exosomes with your PN or PDRN? And the way that I describe it is because the PDRN has a few studies that are out there showing in general that can have an anti-inflammatory mechanism, and it's by the AX2 pathway, salvage pathway as well. But what we saw when clinical studies, when we did a split face with using exosomes topically after a procedure versus the poly PDRN or PN, what I found is the anti-inflammatory effect, the more efficient way of bringing the proper cells into that acute phase for day 0 to day 3 is exosomes, the BNF exosomes is specific. Whereas the PN, I would start applying for day 3, day 4, day 5, because I want that scaffolding that's inside there to theoretically allow the fibroblastic mechanism as it stretches to use the mechanical effect of the polynucleotides. For PDRN, I haven't done a proper study, so I can't comment on that. And we're hoping to do something now. We're actually embarking on 3 different studies. We're going to be pairing with a company called Aura versus Canfield to see if we can measure what's being seen in terms of, let's say, pore size, reflectivity, and all types of things from there. So the jury's still out. I think it's an interesting topic. There's a lot of claims, but there's not a lot of science that's out there. And remember, PN and PDRN, they're not new. In 1976, the first article that was published was actually in Russian, talking about using pyrimidines and purines to actually donate into that area to allow something to happen. This was in OB-GYN literature.
So
Uh,
I
Go ahead.
published with Saranya Wells on Mayo Clinic on PDRN and sodium DNA. And one thing, because I feel like everything is there. I use everything, and everything is needed, and everything is important in the world of orthomolecular science, because these are signals, as signaling processes that allow the cells to have a better environment, better communication, better health. So I think the key is to understand what each of these products do or the major thing that they do for our cells. And PDN, PN, PDR, sodium DNA, they optimize the cellular environment.
Yeah.
This is the main role. So if we start thinking that our cells are conscious beings, they're a station of us, they're living, and they have the same requirement of you and I. They need nutrition, protection, hydration. So most aging skin is not lack of collagen. What they have is lacking cellular efficiency, nutrition, and metabolic capabilities and an optimal environment to survive. So if we start understanding so simple that they need nutrition, protection, hydration, a good environment to survive, then you know, by looking at the patient, you compare the right molecule with the right goal that we're trying to do. Or at the end, I'm gonna show you because we can actually do synergy between this. You can do exosome PDRN, you can do exosome and PDGF, you can do, so we can do everything.
Yes.
I love that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jen, I interrupted you. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I just said I agree. I agree.
So, Faria is asking, okay, thanks. Can they be used together? Growth factors, PDRN, exosomes, DNA repair. I'm not sure what the DNA repair portion is, but yes. So that's exactly what we're commenting on right now live is that we can use all of these, but they have different mechanisms of action. And that's what our goal is to really understand. For me, polynucleotides, again, it's the scaffolding. So that's on day 3, day 4 of a wound. Whereas day 0, the day of to day 3, I'm using my BNF exosomes. Let's move forward to the next slide, if you don't mind, Susie, so that way we can talk about what's the exosome advantage and what are we doing with this. Let's go one more slide, if you don't mind. Lisa, we're about to answer your question here as well. So, Shino, you want to talk a little bit about how do you describe exosomes to your patients?
Well, I usually tell my patient exosomes are the language of the cell. This is how they communicate, right? Like it's like you have this envelope, and this cell put the message on the envelope, and that comes out of the cell and it goes to the recipient cell and gets in there. The envelope's open, and there is a message. So it's a way for our cells to communicate. So for me, exosomes are mainly preferred for complex or refractory cases because they can do a lot of things. Exosomes themselves is a cargo, and that exosome we have exosomes that can have PDGF inside. It has lipids. It has microRNA, mRNA. It has everything. So it's really a way to modulate everything. And I usually, in cases where you really need to also modulate the immune system, exosomes are perfect for that. You can do a lot of things because there's a lot of messages going all at once.
I agree. I got mesmerized by his Latin accent, so I apologize. I missed the last part there. Shoot, I'm just teasing you. Um, uh, Jen, how do you describe when you describe to your patients that you're going to be using exosomes? How do you describe the purpose of exosomes?
Well, I basically, say something not as well as Shino, but I say that they're basically little pouches of information, and all of this information helps not only with regenerative capacities, but also helps the cells communicate with each other. So because it has growth factors and it has mRNA and it has nucleotide, like it has everything that you would need, but it helps create the right environment for wound healing, for collagen formation. It helps so much with hair, but it's because it's not only doing one thing, it's doing many things. And we know that when all of these things get upregulated, there actually is a synergistic response in the entire process. So that's the beauty of the exosomes. It's really targeting things on many different levels, and it's allowing everything to work together.
I love it. Carolina, we're going to answer your question in just a second. Both you and David had asked, how many treatments do you need to see a result, whether it's for pigmentation, photo damage skin? We're going to answer that in just a second. I'm not as elegant as either Dr. Levine or Dr. Aguilar. The way that I describe it in Texas is everything's based around guns, right? So the way that I describe it is this. In the past, and when we were born, when at least Chino and I were born, what happened is we had the white pages. And in those white pages, if you look up the name Sarah Connor, you're going to have 7 or 8 pages of Sarah Connors. And exosomes are like Google. So you put Sarah Connor, Houston, near the Galleria, and all of a sudden there's only 5 Sarah Connors. So if the Terminator had exosomes, he would have found Sarah Connor and we wouldn't have all these movies, right? But luckily he only had the white pages. So it's a more efficient way of having cellular attraction or communication to bring the appropriate cells at the appropriate time. So that's the way that I describe it. And Carolina and David and a couple other people were asking how many treatments before you see a result, whether it's for hyperpigmentation, for photo damage. How do you describe that to your patients, Dr. Levine?
I think, that is it's always patients always want to know, like, what is it going to take for me to look better? So it kind of depends, like who are we talking to? So are we talking to someone who's like 65 years old, who's been in the sun, her entire life and, smokes and never has done anything? Or is it a 30-year-old patient that has a, much more mild problem? I mean, my relative rule of thumb is that I usually tell patients it's going to be a minimum of 3 treatments in order to see a result, and 6 may be better. So for a lot of these regenerative treatments, more is more. Right? I think JD McCoy says that, right? He's always like,
He loves saying that, yeah.
Like more is more. So for a lot of these regenerative treatments, more is more. So for something like hair, you may, I tell them, you're welcome to start with 3, but you may really need 6, and we may need more. That's kind of how I discuss.
Perfect. Perfect. Give me one sec, Chino. I'm going to have you answer the same question. Lisa, Daisy, Demanda, Miss Tan. We're going to answer those questions right now because the next portion that we're going to go into right after Chino is talking about how do we pick and choose what type of exosome product. Because some of the companies are claiming that MSCs or Wharton jelly are the only exosomes that are going to help regenerate skin cells. Maybe. But what we're finding is adipose-derived seems to have the most, from the person who first discovered exosomes and described it, Jan Lotvel, he's the one who first described what's the efficacy, let's say if we're doing a adipose-derived versus a plant-derived. So we're going to talk about that in just a second, and that's what this slide is really talking about. Does the exosome origin make a difference? But before we do that, let's answer that question that was being asked from, I don't remember who the gentleman was. But Chino, how do you describe how many treatments that person's going to need?
Well, I agree with Jen. I'd say at least minimum 3 to 4. So they buy things on package. But I think there's something important that we miss, that I was missing, and now I do it. It's like integrated skincare is very important to support the treatment at
Yes.
home. It's important because it's like, okay, I just got you these wonderful messages, this from the exosomes for today, but whatever happened to the other 3 weeks? You
Right.
need sustain messages. So that I either put them or at home topical exosomes or something that will enhance and support that treatment at home. Otherwise, it will take longer to see the results.
I agree. And so for the person who asked that question, I think it's really important that we put our scientific hats on, put our medical degrees, our nursing degrees, whatever medical background that you have, and really put that hat back on because it's going to be based on your clinical examination. So tug at the skin, look and see what are the other signs. Is there a lot of actinic damage? If somebody looks as young as Jen or Shino, you may need two treatments and space them about a month apart. If you're old and haggard, like you're looking at me, you're going to first you pray, and then you say you need a minimum of X number of treatments. And how do we space those apart? And we're going to have a slide towards the end on how we space that in just a second. But really, what we're understanding is the first two treatments should really be between 4 to 6 weeks apart. And the reason for that, there's a little inflammatory curve that comes. And during that inflammatory process, when those cells maximize, the first treatment is usually 10 to 14 days, where the maximum number of inflammatory cells are there that are going to cause good fibroblastic activity, and then they taper off. If you do a second hit between 4 and 6 weeks, now those cells stay there for about 3 months. It's really it's 80 to 90 days that they're staying there. So you can do the next treatment at the 90-day mark. So it's 3 months. If somebody has haggard skin, then for me, I would need my three treatment sessions about 4 to 6 weeks apart. And then after the third session, I may be able to wait 2 to 3 months before we do another session. Let's look at this slide here. Dr. Aguilera, do you want to make a little comment? What's the importance of the origin of an exosome?
I mean, on this, especially because you have plant-derived exosomes, and I know a lot of in this exosome space, and that's why I created the meeting Genesis, and I did it in such a hurry to protect the space of exosome because I was seeing how other companies were just talking bad about each other and pointing fingers and saying this, creating more confusion. I was confused to the point that, and the AAD that year, they said, at that time, they said 9 out of 10 dermatologists don't want to use exosome anymore. And I'm like, what?
That's a
There
made
was
up
so much
number.
confusion, right? It was so much confusion, it was all over. So with Mother Aesthetics, I did tell Rico, I need to create a meeting. And she go, when? I go, this year, in 6 months, we had to, and we pushed it. The funny thing was that out of all the companies, and I did this meeting to protect the exosome space, only Benef and Planet were the only exosome company that came. And the second year, again, the only two. So it made me feel like, okay, why do you, don't want to come and share your knowledge and bring some clarity to all these misconceptions?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I feel all of these exosomes have a potential to have
Yes.
a positive effect on ourselves. For example, in the United States, we don't have plant-derived exosome, but I have published with my friend Elena Theos in Greece, and we published one on treating melasma with a rose stem exosome, exosome from roses. And then we did a second paper on treating bird hog Dubé syndrome, which is a rare genodermatosis disease, and we saw positive results. And I go to meetings and people say, no, but human-derived exosomes are the best.
Right.
Maybe, but that doesn't mean that plant-derived exosome doesn't have an effect on cells, because even though plants are from a different kingdom, there's a remarkable cross-kingdom communication abilities that allows them to influence human cells. So I believe that whether you are fat-derived, stem cells, and plant-derived, I think that they all can do a beautiful work. And it's just using them and see what responds best. Like I can't wait to have the stem cell from the roses exosomes to treat melasma because we got beautiful results with it.
And it's coming, just so you know. I know Byung is getting ready to release that very shortly through Benev. Jen, what do you think in terms of how you're picking? What's the source, and does it make a difference to you?
Well, I think, when what Chino's basically saying is that, at the heart of what we do, we want to make sure that we're helping our patients and we're basing our clinical practice based on science. So when we're dealing with something like an exosome, we want to know that the company that we're working with has a commitment to science and has a commitment to transparency about their process and has a commitment to excellence. So those things are obviously like very important. So if you don't want to submit your product to be studied or to be looked at or to be analyzed in a clinical way, that's a big red flag, right? Because otherwise, why wouldn't you want to be in a forum or why wouldn't you want to present your data? I think the way the exosomes are collected are extremely important. So it's not only the source, it's the manner of collection, it's the manner of purification, it's the process in which it's done. And is there any scientific basis? Like, is there the research? Is there the papers? Is there something that we can reference? So those are the things that I look for. So it's not just one thing. Like, I'm not going to be fooled by some like airy fairy claim. I think that you have to look at a lot. And I think it's very important that you have a company that really has the same commitment to science and research and transparency. So those are the things that are just as important to me as whatever information that they could give me.
And I agree with you 100%. So people were asking, and I agree with both you guys. So I am excited for plant-derived exosomes, and they have to be really specifically made from the rose stem cell rather than some of these other products that are out there. And there's a reason for that. An exosome, by definition, you have to have um, three markers. It's CD9, CD81, and CD63. Those markers have to be on there to define it as an exosome. That's the basic definition of an exosome. It's a bilipid membrane, so a dual membrane, which we're going to show in just a second. So for us, we really want to make sure that whichever product that you're using has those characteristics. Otherwise, it's not an exosome. It's a nanoparticle, it's a growth factor, or it's cellular debris. When you look at the size of exomes, so 3 microns to about 200, 250 microns, what you're seeing is cellular debris is the same size. So what's the marking that you're seeing and measuring those exosomes? To measure exosomes is very difficult, very expensive. So when a product claims that each vial has 3 trillion exosomes, my question is, how are you measuring that? And how are you marking that those are exosomes rather than cellular debris? So it brings questions to mind. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and
Um,
just to add that, Sunil, is like, and I mentioned earlier, like, you get on the elevator and you press all the buttons, and all the buttons are pressed. It doesn't matter how many times you're gonna press, you're gonna go at the same speed, you're gonna get at the same destination. So when I see they're using as a marketing pitch that we have 300 trillion, like how many do you need to have a positive
yes.
effect? It doesn't matter. But what does matter is what Jen says, is the culture media, what is in there, the excipients, how it's being handled. Because last year, Julie Woodward it was it eBay or Alibaba, she found like 3,000 different
Alibaba.
exosomes.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's very dangerous to buy of places where you don't have a reputable company backing up the science.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna just read off a couple questions so we can answer them as we go to the next slide. Can we go to the next slide and we can understand how you pick a world leader and what's important in terms of publications and use. So there's 45 plus publications. There's 2.2 million vials that have been used so far with incredible safety. There's no adverse reports. We'll go to one more slide forward. And here's some of the questions. How is one of the companies Andrew's talking about, how is Plated able to say, oh, somebody moved it. Oh, hold on one sec. How is Plated able to say they have an exosome product when there's no indication in any of their ingredients that there are any actually exosomes? So we're going to talk about, I don't want to name any names because we're not here to bash anybody. Shino, you and I, we always talk about love, inclusivity. We want to make sure that everybody's included. But at the same time, I'm not as nice as Shino because I call bullshit when I see it. So we're going to show what's indicated. Let's go to, are we on slide 20? Give me one sec. Let me go back to a different screen. I apologize. I'm trying to go through multiple screens here. Okay, go back one slide if you don't mind. Susie, can you go back one slide?
Yeah.
But okay, perfect. If you guys want to take a screenshot, this is the screenshot to take because these are the top 10 questions you should be asking yourself from every exosome company that's out there. What's the patents? What's the safety? What's the efficacy? Can you prove it? What's your source? How do you get the purity? And we're going to go to Byung in just a second to talk about that. What's the stability? And is lyophilization really important? Because lyophilization is a specific mechanism that's actually used in the world's #1 cosmetic product, which is a neuromodulator that starts with B and ends in X. That's the brand name, right? And so what do we know? CGMP, so good manufacturing process. That's a big deal, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. And Andrew, for your point, how do these other companies claim that they have exosomes? That's the question that I have to everybody who's on this conference call, as well as anybody who's on social media, because none of the other ones have any, it's called INCI, INCI. That's you have to go through and label that you have a human-derived or a plant-derived exosome, and none of them have that in there right now. So let's go to the first next slide, please. Perfect. So this is what we're talking about, the INCI, and where it has to be approved, and that label has to be on the product. Otherwise, usually the #1 thing that's on there is glycine or water, right? So it's crazy. Let's go to the next slide, please. Okay, this is just marketing bullshit. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, good. Let me see what this says. So here's why. Jen, I know that you talked about some of the science and why you and I think that, and Shino too, we think that ExcoBio and Benev are the gold standard. What does it mean to you to be the gold standard?
I think, for me, as I said, like I've been lucky enough to actually go to this like state-of-the-art facility in Seoul, Korea, and I have never seen a more impressive manufacturing facility in my life. I mean, the commitment to science and excellence, I don't think that I saw like one speck of dust like anywhere. I couldn't even believe that they could have people working there because it was so
Yeah.
spotless and clean. So obviously the facility itself was very impressive. So that made me understand better their real commitment to manufacturing and to just excellence in general. But I think also I like to read the papers. I like to see the science. And I think that it is a big deal to be able to get all of these classifications that are able to go on the bottle. And the other exosome companies just haven't done that. So they've gone to the next level, and they've also, have like an $80 million commitment to the science and research and all of the other things that have to go into not only making an excellent product, but making a product that's safe and that they have a lot of things they're going to come out with the rose exosome. So there is a commitment to forwarding the field of regenerative medicine. So it isn't
Correct.
only about the exosomes, but it's really about making a quality product that can really help so many people.
I agree with you. Let's go to the next slide, Susie. And I know Byung's going to come on here in just a second to kind of share some of that data with you and what's there. And this is just marketing stuff. This kind of gives you a background on who's willing to pair with a company like this, right? And there's a lot of global leaders that are there. But let's talk about why this is the #1 global professional exosome brand. Let's go to the next slide. I want to get Byung on there. So, and again, we've already talked about this. Let's go one more slide, please. Okay, so we know that it's definitely the first and only one in the US, the Benev product that's based out of Korea. It's the ExcoBio product that has achieved this INCI recognition. So that's really important. So you want to know that it's something that's proven, that's consistent. Go to the next slide. And while she's going to the next slide, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that were asked by Daisy and Amanda. Let's go one more slide over, please. So, the question that's asked is here, what Daisy is asking and what Amanda are asking, can you put exosomes on something that's an actinically damaged skin, that's a skin cancer type region, and can that actually promote that cellular growth of that cancer? And what we found is the opposite. So this is not from ExcoBio research. This is from an outside study that was done that shows when you're putting these exosomes on, you're actually causing a regenerative mechanism as long as you're doing something with a mechanical mechanism at the same time to introduce it into that proper layer. What's that proper layer? It depends on what depth you're trying to get to. So if you're talking about the cheek, mid dermis for the cheek is about 1.5 millimeters. If you're talking about forehead, mid dermis for that area is between 500 microns and 700 microns, 0.5 to 0.7. I want to share this specific case. This is a patient who went through radiation for breast cancer, and what she realized is you can see this tremendous amount of change in the inflammatory respect. And that's by using a topical. And remember the exosome Benev disclaimer, this is a post-care topical use cosmetic solution. There's no pharmaceutical claims that are inside there, but it's the first and only brand to actually achieve that INCI recognition under the name human adipose stromal cell exosomes, and it was approved by PCPC. Let's go to the next slide, please. I'm just going to show a couple of pictures and we're going to move forward. Here's another case. This is post CO2. This is less than 3 days later, and you can see that it actually improves. And this is the cool part. This is what Dr. Shinobe was talking about, where when we're using these exosomes, whether it's the human-derived or the plant-derived, can we make hair grow back? And we're seeing tremendous change with that. And it's changing poliosis, which is a fancy way of saying gray hairs. Let's go to the next slide, please. And again, there's lots of different indications that we can pair this with other other types of devices. Let's go forward one more slide, please. One more. Okay, let's go forward one more because this is 45 reviews and there's both in vitro, in vivo type studies. And what they're showing is there's an improvement in the fibroblastic proliferation. Go forward one more. And we know that if we can improve fibroblastic activity, you're going to have an improvement in terms of collagen production as well as elastin production. Go forward one more, please. Okay, and these are real world testimonials. We're going to skip past the next two slides because it's just testimonials from patients. Let's go about one more first. One more. Perfect. Okay, good. So let's talk about the pharmaceutical grade manufacturing. Let's go forward one slide. And Byung, can you turn your microphone on if you don't mind? And while
Yeah,
you're
I'm on now. Thank you.
perfect. Susie, I'm going to have you flip forward to the slides as he's talking. And will you tell us a little bit about your pharmaceutical grade type production?
Okay, we started our manufacturing. We started our business. When we started our business, we try to be fully GMP compliant with the guidelines of US FDA. So we spent $40 million in this facility. We call that Exo GMP facility. My team is doing a lot of stem cell culture. They do purification process, and we fully automated the production of our products. So I think this facility and process is the only in the world to provide the best quality of exosomes.
Let's go to the next slide. Perfect. So this gives an idea that really it's what's called ISO 3. And remind me, Byung, that means you can have less than 3 particles in the air, correct?
It's true. We have grade A and B and C spaces, and we monitor the quality of air and water and everything. Thank
Let's
you.
go to the next slide. Perfect. Byung, tell us a little bit about the lyophilization process and why that's so important.
As you mentioned, by definition, exosomes are they should be surrounded by lipid membrane for the fast and best delivery. So, and they are containing a lot of biological molecules, proteins, microRNAs, and lipids. So we believe the lyophilization would be the best way to maintain the potency for 2 years, and we are maybe the only company who lyophilize, and we found before and after the lyophilizer process, the membrane integrity and the potency was maintained.
So I'm going to show that in the next slide right now. If you go forward one slide. Lyophilization is really interesting. That allows the shelf stability to be there. And one of the criticisms is how can you prove that after you lyophilize something, it's not the same as freeze drying, but you can lyophilize, like I said, the most famous cosmetic product that's out there that starts with a B, ends with an X, does the same exact process. So any neuromodulator is a lyophilized product. And so what you can see is before and after lyophilization, which I think is so interesting, right? To show that we have the same efficacy that's inside there. Can we go one forward, one more slide, please? Okay. And Dr. Aguilera, you publish often, Dr. Levine, you publish often, you're being interviewed all the time. Is it important for you to have a third-party publication so it's not being sponsored by the company that's making it?
It is super important. It's always important. It's the same thing as I am agnostic. I speak, as you see, not for
Yes.
this company, for a lot of companies, because I don't want to ever be viewed as a paid spokesperson for any company. I work for my patients, though, for companies, and it's very important for me that if I'm going to represent a brand, that the brand has a lot of studies behind, a lot of data, that is spend the proper amount of time, effort, and money into research, and then I will represent that brand, because it is important for me that my patients get the best products out there in the market.
Excellent. I agree. Dr. Levine.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's the difference if you're a third party means it's objective. It's not if it's being sponsored by the company that can be construed as being more subjective, or that the purpose of the study is going to be to whoever is funding it. But if you have objective data that someone's just doing it for science sake, then that's something that we could also trust. Of course, data that's sponsored by the company doesn't mean it's not scientific. It's just a different type of information, and it's good to have both. But I just wanted to also say that the reason why this is just a side point, the lipid bilayer is so important is that our cells are also surrounded by a phospholipid membrane as well as the nucleus. So having that lipid membrane is really important, and being able to maintain it is super, super important, because we're always talking about like, okay, we have this molecule, but how is it going to get where it needs to go? And the delivery system is very important.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. Ms. Ria was asking, do you guys have any studies where patients are skin types 4 to 6? And I don't remember all the publications. I know we're going to go forward another slide, and we're going to have one of these slides that's coming up where you have the QR code that's on the bottom there, and that will take you to the direct link to Benev University where all these publications are there, and you can see that every skin type is being treated. Let's go forward another slide, please. Perfect. So there's two main projects that are out there right now from Excobion, and I know there's another one, Byung, I can't share, so you'll kill me. That's coming down the pipeline. That's going to be going in front of the FDA. So it's going to be a lot more than just this. And there's ERC and there's ERC plus. So oftentimes people ask, okay, is it that there's so many more exosomes, double the exosomes in the ERC plus? Not necessarily. If you look at the actual ingredients, what we find is the ERC plus definitely helps with both skin, like the ERC does, but also it's specifically for scalp as well. And so the questions that some people are asking, can you apply this product? Go to the next slide if you don't mind. Immediately after, yes. So anything and Brandon, you're asking for hair restoration, how are you using exosomes, microneedling, RF microneedling, or injections? Not injections, at least not me. Sheena, are you using injections? Jen, are you using injections?
No.
No, there's no need. When we did the first split scalp study, I did temple and temple. We injected one side with the exosomes. It was not even, there's no label. It was completely illegal. And then I put a topical application after using just old-fashioned microneedling. And the ideal depth based on two publications, one was in the PRS journal and one was in derm surgery. The actual depth, the ideal depth is 0.6 or 600 microns. So how do we get there? If you have an inaccurate microneedling device, program it to 800, so 0.8 or 1 millimeter underneath the skin, and you know that you're probably at about 0.8. Or if you have something that's super accurate, like a skin pen, you can do it at 0.5 with a little bit of extra pressure, and you don't want it to be bleeding. You want just 2 passes, maybe 3 passes, because we're just introducing these channels. So then we can put this as a topical agent that's a cosmeceutical. So one of the persons was asking, can we do it immediately after treatment? I apply immediately after treatment. Dr. Levine, how do you apply yours?
We apply it immediately after treatment because you want to get it when the channels are still open. So we do apply it immediately after the treatment.
I know there's a couple of other at-home skincare products. So one is the Exo Balm and one is the mask. And oftentimes people are asking, at least in some of the areas that we're speaking on stage, hey, do I need to put this on as an in-office portion? I don't. I'm going to ask Dr. Aguilar, I'm going to ask Dr. Levine how you utilize them. For me, I stick them in the fridge, I put them and I send them home with the patient, especially if we're doing an aggressive CO2 or erbium YAG, something that's going to be multiple days of healing. I asked them to put both the items inside the fridge. The Exo Balm we're going to use for about a week, twice a day, 3 times a day, and then we use the mask for the first night as a introductory type thing. How about you, Dr. Levine and Dr. Aguilera?
I do the same way you do it, exactly the same way. We send them home with them and tell them to put it in the refrigerator.
Dr. Levine?
Yeah, so we do the same thing as well. So especially since you don't want to disrupt the other fresh exosomes that you've just put on.
I agree with you. Let's go forward 1 slide if you don't mind. I'm going to try to ask, let's go. Okay, good. Go back 1 slide, please, just for a second. Okay, so this is the Benev University. Everybody who's on here, I know that you can reach out to Susie Samaricone. She's going to be able to get you that link and make sure that you're able to log yourself on to ask questions. Let's go one more forward. Perfect. So the next 2 slides, and again, I can share these with you. My Instagram page is just at Refresh Derm, or you can look up my name, and I can share some of these slides like this one and go to the next slide as well, because it kind of gives you an idea, how are we pairing this? How often should we be doing those treatments? In our practice, we're typically 4 to 6 weeks apart. I do 2, sometimes 3 treatments, 4 to 6 weeks apart, depending on if you look like Jen and Shino or you look like me. So if you look as good as Jen and Shino, twice, a month apart. If you're ugly, then you're going to go 3 or 4 times, right? So, and then we pray, right? So that's where we're at there. Let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. This kind of gives you an idea of all the things that we can do. So let's close up here. I know, Susie, you can go forward to the next couple of slides just to kind of give you an idea of what's the special here. And I'm very cost conscious. And so I wrote down the pricing because I sent it over to my office manager, who's my wife. And typically, Susan texted me back. My Susan texted me back. She said the normal cost of ERC Plus is $131.80 if I'm ordering less than 3 boxes. We never do that. So we actually order at 6 boxes at a time, and we're paying about 120. And Susie Samaricone, who's on the call here, she's saying that our current cost of ERC Plus today is $79.35, which is less expensive than the ERC. ERC, we're paying about $85 if we're doing more than 6 boxes. So my Susan is going to order with Susie here to make sure that we can get the best pricing. And I know that Susie, you told us that, or you told my wife that we have to order by Tuesday to get best pricing, and
Yeah.
we can get it. We can order between Monday and Wednesday. We need to skip. We need to skip the weekend.
Right.
Dr. Parsons, the QR code password. Susie, what's the password to get into using the QR code to Benev University?
It's benefit everyone, all one word, no space, and the capital B and a capital E. So benefit everyone.
Let's go to the next slide if you don't mind. And I'm going to just throw this out there for our team. Carolina is asking, can the exosomes be used on C-section scars, on surgery scars? And then she says, thank you for your time and response. Carolina, thank you for joining us. Thanks for everybody who's joining us. Dr. Parsons is in my neck of the woods. And Jessica, you can reach out to me anytime so we can answer questions. But how are you guys utilizing this? Are you using it for scars as well?
Yes. Yes. Usually I'm going to laser the scar probably prior to still placing it on. But I usually do, like if I'm doing surgery, then I usually will apply the exosomes. Like when I see them the next day and they take off the bandage,
Yeah.
then I usually will apply the exosomes to the face and the surgical wounds. But if I'm treating a scar that's older, then I am going to, you know, either laser it or microneedle it or do something prior to the application of the exosomes.
I do the same thing.
Perfect. And me as well. And I think it's important to understand to me, there needs to be some type of delivery system. And when you talk to Jan Jotvel, the gentleman who first discovered and described these particles that we're calling exosomes now, he said that you need to have something that's going to have a break in the skin and that allows us to apply. So for surgical scars, if I'm doing surgery on the day of, like I just treated a blef, we just did a blef this afternoon. So I closed up everything, I applied it topically on the wound itself, and I sent him home with the exosomes. And she's going to be applying it right now every half hour because I didn't put any steri strips over the actual wound itself, just on where the outside portion of the suture is. The question is, one more question, does it damage the exosomes if we use it as a glide during microneedling?
No, using it as a glide because that would become a drug delivery.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and
we
I don't think there's any advantage. That's my only concern. There's no major advantage there to use it as a glide. We still use the HA as a glide, and then we apply it immediately topically. Doris, you were asking for the passcode again. And if you go to the webinar chat, it's going to be benefit everyone with capital B and capital E. It's all one word, benefit everyone. With that, you guys, I've overstayed my welcome. It's 8:06 p.m. We're going to have to sign off here. A lot of people were asking, is this webinar being recorded? Is it going to be shared? This is not. It's not going to be shared. This is every month we're going to be coming with a new educational response, and we're going to have amazing speakers like Dr. Aguilera, like Dr. Levine. And so I'm glad that you guys were able to join us tonight. Thank you. Hopefully it was useful, and we spilled the tea.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, guys.
everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Keep sending
you.
everyone
you so
email
much.
after.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good night,
Have
everybody.
a wonderful night.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye or.
For those that are on, just remember we're sending an email out with our specials, and that will be sent out tomorrow. So thank you again for everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Levine. Thank you, Dr. Shinobe.
Thank
Ciao.
you.
Thank you, Byung.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Bye.